following contains mature content. You've been warned.
From Wondery, I'm Mark Ramsey, and this is Part 7, the final chapter of Inside Jaws. July 14, 1916, South Amboy, New Jersey. Morning, Michael. Morning, John. Ready to catch some fish? Always ready. Hey, look at this. A broken oar. Yeah, it just needs the paddle. What are you going to do with that? I don't know. It's always good for something. I'm keeping it with my fishing gear. Whatever you say, Michael. Michael Schleicher was 40 years old. A small man, only 5'6". He had a big handlebar mustache, and grooming it was one of his favorite pastimes. I think the fishing's going to be good today. I hope so, I really do. Michael Schleicher was a taxidermist by trade. He had been an animal trainer and a big game hunter. He had traveled the world, and his home was stocked with dozens of trophies. Stuffed black bears and wolves and alligators, rows of animal heads. If he didn't train it, he killed it. Inside Jaws is pleased to have Audible as its presenting sponsor. Audiobooks are a great sidekick for summer activities like hiking, sunbathing on the beach, running, road tripping, enjoying downtime outdoors, and more. And when you think of audiobooks, think of Audible. We worked with Audible to create a summer hearing list. It's full of great stories that will last you all summer long. This week we're recommending Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, Book 1 by George R.R. Martin. Try Audible. Go to audible.com/JAWS or text JAWS to 500-500 to get started. Amazon Prime members can get Audible for just $4.95 a month for the first 3 months. That's like getting 3 months for the price of one. After that, it's only $14.95 a month. This offer ends July 31st, 2018. That's audible.com/JAWS, audible.com/JAWS, or text JAWS to 500-500. It was an 8-footer, their boat. Wood. Small, but big enough for fishing. They motored past Staten Island. Schleicher threw a 6-foot net over the stern. The net would do the work for them. They sat back and enjoyed the ride. After an hour, they reached Raritan Bay, not far from Matawan Creek.
Whoa! What was that? Something's caught in the net. Something big. How big?
The boat was moving backwards. It was being pulled backwards and dragged down. Something in the net was trying to pull them under. Both men threw themselves to the front of their boat, fighting for their lives. They didn't intend to hunt a shark. They weren't ready to fight a shark. No gun, no harpoon, nothing sharp or deadly at all. Just a broken oar handle. They were taking on water. The timbers of the boat were snapping. Schleicher looked into a mouth massive enough to swallow him. The bow was now out of the water. Schleicher lost his footing and frantically slid towards the stern, towards that colossal mouth, those razor-sharp teeth. The monster's black, dead eyes had him in their gaze. Fighting for dear life, he kicked at the shark. He was slipping. He grabbed for something, anything. His fingers fastened around something, the broken oar handle. With his other hand, holding on, slipping as the creature's mouth was breaking through the stern. Schleicher was bleeding. He could feel it, and the shark could smell it. This was it. He would live or die right now. The monster had stopped moving. He slid into the net. His mouth, gaping jaws, still open. He was dead. He was beaten to death. Later, Schleicher cut open the monster's stomach. What would be inside? It was a grisly sight, with an overpowering stench, bones and flesh, human bones, human flesh. 15 pounds of it. That's all that was left, 15 pounds. That was him, the man-eater of Mattawan. Are we safe? Are we safe now? The danger's gone for now, but they're still out there, sharks. They've always been there. They'll always be there. In his book about the shark attacks of 1916, author Michael Capuzzo wrote, "The great white endures in the depths where it has always rained, in cautionary tales told by mothers and fathers, in whispers in the unconscious, in offshore shadows, and in ripples on a tidal creek." Below the thunders of the upper deep, far, far beneath, in the abysmal sea, his ancient, dreamless, uninvaded sleep, the Kraken sleepeth. There hath he lain for ages and will lie, until the latter fire shall heat the deep, then once by man and angels to be seen. In roaring he shall rise, and on the surface die. March 26, 1975, Dallas, Texas. The very first sneak preview of Jaws. Dick Zanuck and Steven Spielberg arrived at the theater hours before showtime. What's that line for? What's playing here? Dick, we are playing here. Steven, not for hours. Dick, look at that line. The line, the reaction, was Texas-sized huge. They cheered. They screamed. They laughed in all the right places. The shark wasn't funny. It was terrifying. This was a night to celebrate. They were all so used to the shark failing, anything else was unimaginable.
Attention, everybody. The shark is working!
Right up until they heard the very first scream. The second preview in Long Beach 2 days later was more of the same. Jaws received a standing ovation. The audience devoured it. Scrawled on one of the audience comment cards was this bit of sage wisdom. "This is a great film. Now don't fuck it up by trying to make it better." Jaws was released nationwide on June 20, 1975. It turned a profit 14 days later. After 64 days, it became the most successful film in motion picture history, an honor it held for only 2 years, when it was dethroned by another thrilling film, this one set a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Star Wars. Small wonder, then, that when Star Wars auteur George Lucas picked up his daily variety on that day in 1977, there was a surprise in store for him from his friend Steven Spielberg. A full-page ad, the little droid R2-D2 holding a fishing pole and reeling in Bruce the Shark on a hook. "Dear George, congratulations," he wrote. "Wear it well. Your pal, Steven." Today, Jaws sits at number 2 on the American Film Institute's list of the most thrilling American films of all time, sandwiched between Psycho and The Exorcist. Shark! There were shark sightings everywhere. Oceans, rivers, lakes. I think that's driftwood. Time declared 1975 to be the summer of the shark. Dick Zanuck said, "There's no way anyone considering a dip in the ocean won't think of a great white shark first." Jaws merchandise flooded the malls. T-shirts, toy sharks, puzzles, necklaces, lunchboxes, sheets, and of course, beach towels. The cultural impact was immense. Parodies and spoofs on TV, jokes in primetime, even comic book superheroes like Spider-Man and Batman were pitted against killer sharks. Today we expect popular movie franchises to be transformed into theme park attractions, but Jaws was the first. It's because of Jaws that Happy Days featured Fonzie literally jumping the shark in 1977. From there, it was only a matter of time until movie sharks crazy quilted into a dinosaur, a zombie, an octopus, and a tornado. Steven Spielberg toyed with the idea of doing a sequel to Jaws, but only if it could focus on the backstory of the USS Indianapolis. When that idea went out the window, Spielberg went out the exit. Sequels did materialize over the years, against all better wisdom. The final one, Jaws the Revenge, co-starred Michael Caine. About this movie, Caine famously said, "I have never seen it, but by all accounts, it is terrible. However, I have seen the house that it built, and it is terrific." Many movies were inspired by Jaws, no surprise considering generations of filmmakers like Steven Soderbergh and Peter Jackson considered Jaws to be their favorite film ever. But think about this. All this time, all these movies spawned by Jaws, and virtually nothing as good or better. The reviews had been enthusiastic, with a few exceptions. Molly Haskell in The Village Voice, "I did not feel compelled to give it a rave review because I jumped out of my seat. You feel like a rat being given the shuck treatment." William Pechter in commentary, "I could not warm very much to the filmmaking of this essentially manipulative sort. Jaws is a mind-numbing repast for sense-sated gluttons." But a bad review isn't all bad. One New York paper wrote, "What is Jaws but a Roger Corman movie with a bigger budget?" Spielberg may not have been thrilled, but Roger Corman sure was. "This is the best review I ever got," he said. But no matter what critics wrote, the audiences flooded into theaters over and over again. Sid Sheinberg predicted that Steven Spielberg would win the Best Director Oscar that year. February 1976. The Academy Award nominations were about to be announced live on TV. In his office at Universal, Steven Spielberg is brimming with confidence. "Come on in, everybody, come on in, come on in." He has invited a local TV crew into his office to watch him watch the nominations live. The massive audiences, the overwhelming box office, the rip-roaring acclaim from every corner of the media sphere and everyone in the movie business. It had convinced him of one thing. This was his year. Mark my words, Jaws is about to be nominated in 11 categories, including this one, Best Director. You're all about to see a clean sweep. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I wasn't nominated. Inside, an unspeakable humiliation. This was in public. It was on TV. He could feel his heart pound in his ears. He was losing his breath. He was faint. He was ready to vomit. And yet he had to pretend that it was all just okay. Inside, he wanted to scream. He wanted to tear out his hair. He just wanted to cry. Everyone in Hollywood would watch this in real time. Everyone saw it, and many of them would gloat. Later, with the benefit of time and perspective, Spielberg said this: "For the first 12 weeks of Jaws, people were thrilled by it. 6 months later, they were saying that no film that made that amount of money could be that good. When a film makes a lot of money, people resent it. Everyone loves a winner, but nobody loves a winner." Jaws would go on to win only 3 Oscars, all technical. It was nominated for Best Picture and lost to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Hiring used to be hard. Stacks of resumes, a confusing review process. You couldn't just count on a talented kid like Steven Spielberg hopping off the tram and waltzing into your office. No. But today, hiring can be easy, and you only have to go to one place to get it done: ZipRecruiter.com/Jaws. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards, but they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invite them to apply to your job. As applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates so you never miss a great match. Look, ZipRecruiter is so effective that 80% of employees who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within 1 day. With results like that, it's no wonder that ZipRecruiter is the highest-rated hiring site in America. And right now, listeners of Inside Jaws can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address: ZipRecruiter.com/Jaws. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Jaws. ZipRecruiter.com/Jaws. ZipRecruiter. It's the smartest way to hire. When he was making Jaws, Steven Spielberg was living in a house on Martha's Vineyard, trying like hell to get a good night's rest before another day of production nightmares. In desperation, he stuck celery into his pillowcase to help him sleep. He woke up sweating every morning. What would he have given for a Casper mattress? See, a Casper mattress has a breathable design that helps you sleep cool and regulates your body temperature throughout the night. It's cozy, it's comfortable. Wait, you don't have a Casper mattress? Well, you should. Celery in your pillowcase? Come on. You know you spent about a third of your life sleeping, right? You should be on something comfortable. The original Casper mattress combines multiple supportive memory foams for a quality sleep surface with the right amounts of both sink and bounce. Hey, I've got one, and it's like sleeping on a cloud. You can be sure of your purchase with Casper's 100-night risk-free Sleep On It trial. There's also free shipping and hassle-free returns in the U.S. and Canada if you're not completely satisfied. Forget the celery. Get a Casper. You can get $50 towards select mattresses by visiting Casper.com/Jaws and using promo code JAWS at checkout. That's Casper.com/Jaws, promo code JAWS. Terms and conditions apply. George, hurry up. You have to see this reaction. Steven Spielberg had timed it perfectly. He and his friend George Lucas would enter the back of the theater just as Hooper dives to inspect the bottom of Ben Gardner's shark-battered boat. Gardner went hunting for the shark, but the shark found him first. Let's just stand at the back. Shh, here he comes. Hooper dives into the water. The water is murky dark. He waves a flashlight at the hull. It's pocked with large holes. From one, he pulls a tooth, a very large shark's tooth. It's quiet. He crawls along the hull. Another hole. He's about to move by when... Ben Gardner's decapitated head just emerged from the hole, panicking Hooper and shocking every human being with a pulse. Steven Spielberg was giddy. He smiled a broad smile at George Lucas. That's amazing, Steven. Just amazing. Provoking a response and seeing that response play out with a real audience in the real world in real time every time. It was the best feeling ever. Spielberg hoped he would always hold on to it. One other thing he held on to, Ben Gardner's decapitated head, for a while at least, until it vanished. November 2012, Steven Spielberg is home with his family watching TV, The Walking Dead. It's season 3, and Rick and our heroes are being threatened by the one-eyed governor. The camera pans around his office to an aquarium, a simple fish tank, filled not with fish, but with bits and pieces of the governor's victims. And there, in the corner of the fish tank, is one head Spielberg recognizes instantly. The head of Ben Gardner. October 24, 1975. Chasen's Restaurant, the place to be for the glitterati of Hollywood. Steven Spielberg was waiting outside. His friend Bruce Dern was lunching with one of Spielberg's idols. Bruce, if there's any way you can convince him to meet me, I'd be so honored. I'll ask, of course, Steven. He has no reason not to. Okay, I'll be outside. Spielberg waited. He could see Bruce Dern sitting with his idol, Alfred Hitchcock. Spielberg had once been thrown off Hitchcock's set, but that was then. Now, he was the toast of Universal and the toast of Hollywood. Still, this town eats its young. Spielberg knew that. He also believed that he was, at heart, still the pimply, awkward, unpopular Jewish kid from Phoenix who might never fit in. Maybe he didn't deserve to meet the great Hitchcock. Their lunch was wrapping up. Bruce Dern came to the door. Steven, I asked him. I'm so sorry. He said no. Spielberg was stunned, but not surprised. He felt like he got what he deserved. Mr. Spielberg? It was a boy, maybe 12 years old, and he was in a t-shirt emblazoned with one word, Jaws. Can I have your autograph? Sure. Me too. It was a throng surrounding him, all with something to sign, posters and pads and lunchboxes and t-shirts and a cast for one boy on crutches. Steven Spielberg was being mobbed. He didn't notice the limousine pull up to the curb. He didn't notice the great Alfred Hitchcock leave the restaurant, heading for the open car door. He didn't notice Hitchcock's head turn to see the swarm of fans surrounding Spielberg. He didn't notice Hitchcock's eyes, downcast, as he struggled into the car and drove away. No one noticed. August 28, 1978. Robert Shaw was driving. He was on a scenic road near his home, a 150-year-old estate by a lake filled with trout in County Mayo, Ireland. He was not feeling well. The stinging pain shot up his arm and into his chest. He was on the side of the road. His hands gripped the dirt. Heart attack. He was 52. Reflecting on the legacy of Robert Shaw in Jaws, one critic wrote, "Jaws deserves its reputation. It's incredibly entertaining, but has matured so well. You can smell the whiskey breath of it. The whiskey breath of Robert Shaw." February 22nd, 2014. Richard Dreyfuss is in Ireland to promote a movie. He's in his dressing room. He's about to be a guest on a nighttime talk show. Come in. It was a girl, a 14-year-old girl. She introduced herself as the granddaughter of Robert Shaw. She never knew her grandfather, but she wanted to meet the man who worked at his side in Jaws. Richard Dreyfuss broke down and cried. He hugged her. Your grandfather was an enormous personality, grand and large. He radiated charisma. And in private, he was the kindest, gentlest, funniest man you would ever meet. Dreyfuss had lost many friends over the years. They had all gone away too soon. Robert Shaw had gone away too soon. And now, after the heat of on-set rivalry cooled, after Jaws evolved from ordeal to classic, after all these years, Robert Shaw had given Dreyfuss one final gift: closure. September 1988.
Very busy morning on the freeways. Still looking at a tough drive.
J.J. Abrams is 22, and he's driving dizzy. He keeps touching himself to make sure he's really awake. Yes, he's awake. It really happened. He really did have a meeting with his idol, Steven Spielberg. J.J. had grown up with Spielberg's movies. They had opened his eyes to wonder and magic. The meeting was about a sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The movie never happened, but this meeting would be fateful. Hi, JJ, is it? Yes, Mr. Spielberg. Steven. So, what does JJ stand for? Jeffrey Jacob. But you prefer JJ? Yeah. I prefer Steve, but after my first credit, there was no going back. Steven, I have to tell you, when I was a kid, Matt Reeves and I edited and restored all my old 8mm movies. I know, I've kept my eye on you. On me? JJ, when I was new in this town, fighting my way into Universal, there was a man named Chuck Silvers. He opened the door to me. He helped me. He asked for two things in return. He wanted a big hug every time I saw him, and he wanted me to pass along whatever good fortune I had. I've never stopped doing both. Over the years, Spielberg and Abrams would cross paths often. And when Star Wars: The Force Awakens came along, Spielberg told the producer, Kathleen Kennedy, there's only one director who should undertake this daunting epic task: J.J. Abrams. July 1997, Universal Studios Hollywood. Steven Spielberg stared out over the man-made harbor that was Amity. It was where he came when the nightmares were at their peak many years ago. Today, the nightmares were gone, but so was something else. Hey, excuse me. Yes, sir, Mr. Spielberg. Where's the Orca? Oh, the old boat? It was a wreck, Mr. Spielberg. The wood was rotted and the lower cabin was flooded. It had basically sunk. We tried lifting her out with a crane and a harness, but the hull broke in half. I'm afraid we had to junk her. Only time and nature could kill what a vicious great white shark could not. There's a lesson in there somewhere. All that remained of the noble Orca was the wheel, one propeller, and a flag. I hope they rebuild it and put it back there. The tourists would love to see the Orca here. Sure they would. And so would Steven Spielberg. That boat, for all its nostalgia, for all it represented, Spielberg would like to touch it one more time. April 1960. Steven Spielberg was a boy living in Phoenix. He sat beside the fire with his grandfather, the man who had humiliated him that day, calling him down the street, using his Hebrew name, Shmuel. Why did he do that? The boys laughed at him, Shmuel. Spielberg was different. He hated being different. He was Jewish in a neighborhood of Gentiles. He was awkward. He was ashamed. Steve, did I embarrass you today in front of your friends? No, Grandfather Fievel. I think the answer is yes. Here, let me show you something. The old man rolled up his sleeve. There was a tattoo, a remnant of another place, another time, not so long past. That's a 4, that's an 8, That's a 2. But here's a trick. See that 6? He crooked his elbow. Now it's a 9. Slowly, he rolled down his sleeve and sat, his eyes suddenly far away. He sat in that chair by the fire, staring beyond the flickering flames, staring into the past. March 11, 2018, Austin, Texas. Don't worry, Mr. Spielberg, they're going to roll it back and fix the sound. Steven Spielberg's head was in his hands, literally. This was the world premiere of his latest movie, Ready Player One, a return to classic Spielberg style. And this wasn't just any audience, it was a packed-to-the-rafters house at South by Southwest, where the crowd does not suffer fools or technical snafus. Steven Spielberg was 71 now. He hadn't had a huge hit in 10 years, and he was out to prove he could still wow an ever-younger movie audience. This didn't help. They've got it fixed now. They're rolling it back again. I'm so sorry, Mr. Spielberg. Mistakes happen. Spielberg knew it. Even after all these years, premiere screenings left him chewing his fingernails to the quick. You know, if not screwing up the audio gets a standing ovation, then maybe we set the bar too high. He was kidding. The bar was high. Since 1975, the bar had always been high. And Steven Spielberg vaulted over that bar more often, over more years, than most filmmakers combined. The movie was over. How would the audience respond? Spielberg flashed back to one day in 1993. Sitting alone on an arid hillside on Mount Zion in Jerusalem. He had just finished shooting the most grueling and emotionally devastating film of his career. It had shattered him. It was much more than a picture. It was a labor of love, a duty, the movie he was born to make. Schindler's List. Day after day for 72 days, he recreated the unimaginable horrors of the Holocaust and the miracle of faith that rescued 1,100 Jews thanks to one man, Oskar Schindler. Today, he shot the final coda, the scene which reunited the survivors of Schindler's List to pay tribute on this spot, the site of Schindler's grave, on this broad slope leading to the highest point in Old Jerusalem, the place symbolizing the Promised Land. He had held back so much for so long. So many had been depending on him. He carried the legacy of millions of Jews on his shoulders, the weight of his own history, and the burden was heavy. He had thought himself unworthy for this project. He still did. He turned again to the note he had long carried, the one from his mother, the one he stuffed into his pocket the day he left home to make his dreams come true. Dear Steve, centuries ago, there lived a wise man, a teacher and philosopher named Erasmus. He knew the secret to a good life. He wrote, "The chief element of happiness is this, to want to be what you are. Love, Mom." At South by Southwest, Ready Player One was over. How would the audience respond? When you release something new into the world, you're on a tightrope teetering between failure and success. You may tumble and fall, or, just maybe, if you want to be what you are, perseverance and talent will conspire with good fortune and God's grace to bring near what had always seemed beyond reach: approval, belonging, love. a grateful and relieved Steven Spielberg climbed to the stage and waved to the crowd. For the first time all day, he breathed a sigh of relief. For the first time all day, Steven Spielberg smiled. From Wondery, this has been a 7-part deep dive inspired by the story behind an unforgettable classic movie. This is part 7 of Inside Jaws. Written and narrated by Mark Ramsey. Audio design and production by Jeff Schmidt. Produced by Mark Ramsey Media. Executive producers Marshall Louis and Hernan Lopez for Wondery. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, NPR One, Spotify, Wondery.com, or wherever you're listening right now. If you like what you're hearing, we'd love you to give us a 5-star rating and review us. And be sure to tell your friends and show them how to subscribe. Find a link to subscribe to Inside Jaws and more information on the episode notes. Just tap or swipe over the cover art. You'll also see some offers from our sponsors. Please support this show by supporting them. For more information and to comment on this show, visit our website, wondery.com/InsideJaws. Tweet us at InsideJaws. Inside Jaws is pleased to have Audible as its presenting sponsor. Ready for our weekly audiobook recommendation? This week, a familiar story in a fresh format. Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, Book 1 by George R.R. Martin and narrated by Roy Daughtries. You've seen the HBO series. Now hear it from the beginning. Now, if you're spending hours listening to a story, the voice had better hold your interest, right? Well, wait until you hear Roy Daughtries' narration. Who is he? Well, he's only the guy personally asked by author George R.R. Martin to do that narration. That's who. He was Mozart's father in Amadeus. He's the character in the HBO Game of Thrones series who introduces Tyrion to wildfire. That's the magical substance that destroys Stannis Baratheon's fleet. You will be captivated by his voice and by the music of the story. Go to audible.com/Jaws or text Jaws to 500-500 to get started. Amazon Prime members can get Audible for just $4.95 a month for the first 3 months. That's like getting 3 months for the price of one. After that, it's only $14.95 a month. This offer ends July 31st, 2018, so do not wait. Set yourself up now with Audible's unmatched selection of audiobooks that will keep you entertained all summer long. That's audible.com/Jaws, audible.com/Jaws, or text Jaws to 500-500. You're going to need a bigger...